Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Today, I'm going to be talking about the collapse of First Republic Bank. So, thanks for tuning in. This will be Financial Education episode number 8. Okay, so for those that don't know, we saw our fourth major bank collapse in the last 90 days. This is a bit unsettling, it's crazy stuff, but at the same time, when you look at everything that kind of goes into it, it checks out in a sense, unfortunately. So, a similar situation that we saw with Silicon Valley Bank, they failed because of a bank run. Everybody was trying to withdraw their money at the same time. Now, First Republic Bank didn't have much cash on hands, and they didn't have many liquid assets. They couldn't turn their assets into money quick enough, so eventually they had to forfeit. So what got the ball rolling was their first quarter reports this year. They released it on April 24th, and it was nothing but pessimistic. Everything was bad, revenue was down, everything was bad. So this is a problem for a variety of people. The people that had money sitting in First Republic Bank, they're like, am I going to see this money again? They're in a bad situation. But second off, the shareholders. As you can see over here, stock price dropped 90% in a few weeks, or even 12 days. So this is crazy stuff. This is very eye-opening. And at this point in time, once your stock drops 90%, I mean, how do you recover? So and yeah, I mean they're making statements like, okay, we have to restructure our balance sheet, all this kind of stuff, and it just causes hysteria. Everybody wants to see their money again, so everybody's trying to withdraw their money and take it as far away from this bank as possible. So the reason they didn't have this money on hand was because 67.7% of their money was tied up in uninsured deposits. So with this bank, they were huge into mortgages, which, as you can imagine, mortgages are a very long-term asset. It takes a long time for these to mature. So with that, they didn't have anything on hand, and you can't liquidize this kind of stuff. So when all this money is tied up in long-term assets and people want to see their money right now, you have a huge problem. I mean, you can borrow from other banks, but right now every bank is facing the same problem. As you saw yesterday, interest rates were just hiked again. So we're up to 5.25%. So all the banks are kind of in panic mode. It's just the banks that really, when you expose the balance sheet, it's the banks that have these long-term assets that are putting money down to see it in 10, 20, 50 years. These are the banks that are really facing the problems. And this is nothing new for this bank. Just recently, a few months ago, I think, yeah, this says March 16th, probably a bit earlier than that, probably early March. A few people from Wall Street decided to drop $30 billion to help them with their deposits. So it's been a plaguing problem for a little while. People have been kind of seeing First Republic as a faulty just because of how much money they put into these mortgages and these long-term assets. So they actually saved them not long ago and put 30 billion. But as we can see, it just didn't happen to be enough. So okay, so what happened? I guess they failed. What does that even look like? Did they get bailed out by the FDIC? Not exactly. So JP Morgan, so for those that don't know, JP Morgan is a huge bank, one of the biggest, too big to fail. JP Morgan actually agreed to pay out to buy this bank essentially. Now, this is super weird for a few reasons. First off, there's definitely some regulations that go into banks buying other banks. You're not supposed to. There's a weird 10% rule. So it's interesting that they got away with this. And they honestly probably came out on top. The people that came out on the worst end of it, so the depositors will see their money again. That's the thing. So JP Morgan will pay 10.6 billion to the Federal Deposit, the FDIC. So the FDIC and JP Morgan are in alliance right now to bail out everybody that had money in the bank. The people that really got hurt were the shareholders. As you can see, they're not paying out First Republic's preferred stock. Everybody that had shareholders, they lost every dollar they ever invested. I mean, this is something where First Republic is no longer. Any First Republic bank is taking down their signs right now as we speak, and they're putting up a JP Morgan sign. I mean, this is a drastic change in the way they're going to perform, the way they're doing things, and it's basically hitting the reset button. So as you can see down here, I think, yeah, approximately 2.6. So JP Morgan just came out on top. They're still in a fine position right now because I think they really kind of weathered the storm a lot better. They knew what was going on. And like I said, they just have so many assets that they're just too big to fail. So shareholders came out on bottom. Depositors, it is what it is. You'll see your money back. Will you still bank with JP Morgan? Maybe. But JP Morgan really came out on top of all this. So to end this video, to kind of wrap it up on a more optimistic note, I guess maybe. So for banks in the future, the Federal Reserve is definitely incentivizing people to use this discount window, which is just saying that, okay, we'll give you a bunch of money right now, in with terms you'll pay it back in the future, but it's a very low rate. So it helps a lot of people that are withdrawing their money, and it was definitely helping this bank out for a while. And that 30 billion was in assistance. But as you can see, the banks that have really faulty balance sheets and have really put their money into long-term assets are just going to fail. I mean, that's the sad truth about it. And with interest rates getting hiked yesterday, it's going to get worse. I mean, we'll probably see another bank or two fail within the next couple of weeks. That's just my predictions. Very, just something that I said. I might be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But if we see interest rates hike again, they're going to be higher than they were in the 2008 recession. And we saw a lot of banks fail in the 2008 recession. So obviously this is a different time. It's hard to compare the two, but that's some of the only sample size that we truly have. So hopefully the banks will be able to use this discount window, and hopefully the other hope is that the taxpayers won't have to be, won't be responsible for the FDIC, because as we saw Silicon Valley Bank, we were actually people that pay taxes were actually responsible for a little bit of this money. And that's not to mention the effect that it has on inflation. When we're just printing a bunch of money and just handing it out to whoever, to handing out to banks that don't have a faulty balance sheet, that haven't really done it the correct way, that's definitely a problem. And especially when we have, inflation as high as it is, where we're raising these interest rates to fight inflation, but then it's having this adverse effect. This is a huge problem. And as you can see around, if you want to talk internationally, globally, we have the BRICS nation that are thinking about coming up with a new currency. We are at a vulnerable spot right now. So hopefully the dollar can recover. Hopefully we'll find a good balance between inflation and interest rates, where we can kind of maybe even stop hiking interest rates. I think that was kind of the notion this time, was that this will be 5.25% is going to be the highest that it gets to. So I hope that everybody is true. Jerome Powell is not the best Fed chairman, but he's doing what he can. I mean, this is a tough situation. So it's hard for everybody. We just have to kind of get out as best as we can, take some losses, but get out as best as we can as an economy. So that's about all I have for you guys. I really appreciate you all tuning in. I know it's been a little while since I dropped a video, so I appreciate some support on it. I have a lot of cool video ideas coming out soon. So yeah, I appreciate it. Everybody have a good one. Thank you.